Hey, it's Izzy from Valuart. Welcome to another episode of the Valuart podcast. In this episode, we'll be interviewing artist, futurist, and VR specialist Sutu, who uses art and technology in new ways to tell stories. More specifically, we'll explore his upcoming FakeWhale Cross drop on Nifty that will also be featured in the dedicated in real life Valuart Solos exhibition, also curated by FakeWhale. But now, let's go discover the Sutuverse with Sutu himself. Hi, Sutu. Thank you for being here today on the Valuart podcast.
Hey, how are you?
All good, all good. So how have the last weeks been for you? I know that you had a lot on your plate with the TED Talks, a lot of projects. Where are you right now?
We are very busy. We're launching our game on October 1st. So it's literally coming up in just over a week's time. That's very exciting. I've been working on this project for about 6 months. And this will be a part of my Neons. What began as my Neons PFP project is now becoming my first kind of browser-based 3D immersive metaverse style game.
Cool. And that one is called, I believe, the Circuit Breaker speedrun tournament that's coming, right, on October 1st.
Izzy, very good. You've done your research.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
I was checking it out earlier, and I'm going to try it on October 1st. So I was also checking out, your app earlier, and we'll dive into that later. But I'll dive in with like the first question. And I wanted to ask, you call yourself Sutu. We wanted to also Sutu eats flies. So I wanted to know a little bit more of the story behind that, especially Sutu eats flies.
Right. Sutu Eats Flies probably began more as a joke when I had to create an Instagram handle years ago, and Sutu wasn't available, and then I was trying to come up with like a variation of that. And Sutu Eats Flies, I kind of was eating a lot of flies at the time, not intentionally. I was living in the desert, and there was lots of flies, and you couldn't really escape them, so it somehow came out of that.
And thankfully, nobody stole that handle.
Yeah, no one had that one. Yeah, that was also the thing. But I remember at the time, I was a big fan of companies like Marshmallow Laser Feast. I don't know if you've heard of those guys. They do fantastic interactive work. I always thought that was kind of a crazy name to have for such a big professional company. And I thought, well, if they can do Marshmallow Laser Feast, then I can do Sutu Eats Flies. Yeah.
Love it. And definitely, I was curious to know the name. I always went on the website, and I love the name. And I also love on their website where you define yourself as artist, but also visionary. I really love that part of your website.
Oh, okay.
And yeah. Then the second question that I had is, FakeWhale has recently partnered up with Nifty Gateway as a publisher, a partnership that will see an upcoming drop of yours as the very first FakeWhale Cross drop on Nifty. Can you tell us more about it and share the details of the pieces?
Sure. So, it's very exciting. It'll be actually my first drop on Ethereum for close to a year. Now that Ethereum has moved over to proof of stake, super excited about that. Great for the world, great for the environment, all that. The drop is called Digital Natives, and it's a series of these characters that I've created. The concept of a digital native, well, usually when we hear that term, we sort of think about kids growing up with video games and a relationship to technology. And now the term is kind of evolving to imagine people growing up more immersed in virtual environments. And it's becoming more relevant as we start to enter this metaverse era. And I'm trying to imagine, and I spend a lot of my time imagining this, what our role will be in a virtual environment. How do we define our identities? What do those steps look like? How do we become, how do we make those environments as worthwhile as our physical environments? And and what can we do in those environments to create meaningful relationships or just improve ourselves, mentally, and improve our skills and things like this. And the digital native is this concept of someone that's, their breath in a virtual world is possible to augment that world. Every nuance of their presence has a connection to. Every nuance of their presence has a connection to that virtual environment and can interact with it in some way. And the extension of that is then, how do we build on that? And I think, like, right now, for example, we're seeing this explosion of AI art, for example, and it's growing very rapidly, and it's a text prompt system where, you write in a couple of keywords and that can conjure up an artwork. And this is one sort of technology that's growing. And then, if you look at that alongside a speech prompt AI like Siri or something like that, what we'll see very soon is like a convergence of those two systems, and the creation of our artwork and animations and editing and all these different processes virtually will become more of a conversation with the AI that we'll be able to update in real time and edit in real time. And this also depends on, processing capabilities, like processing technology getting faster. It also relies on our data sets being managed better and more accessible. So, if you create a text prompt right now, when you say like Renaissance style or something like that, a lot of these text prompt AI services have a great data set prepared for all these classic Renaissance painters and stuff. But that visual language and that visual portfolio of art is getting organized right now to include also contemporary arts. And I can also load up my own art into these data sets as well. And so I can start to train the machines to learn all about my style and my technique, so that when I'm having these conversations, I'm iterating with the machine on my own sort of curatorial preference of art that I want to see. And then I can reaffirm the visual style and language that is more me. And I think that this is what I see as like a digital native, someone that's living and breathing and evolving these worlds in real time.
In real time, both in, as the metaverse is growing into, because it's still in an infancy, as it's growing into what it will be. You mean in real time, like in both, you kind of see that interconnection where at a certain time, because I know that you really you go against like the bias that a lot of people have that, once we're inside the metaverse, we'll kind of like lose contact with the physical world, right?
Yeah.
So
I think there is different interpretations of a metaverse as well. So there is a fully immersive metaverse, which could be virtual reality, where you put the headset on and you're kind of no longer in this physical space, you're in a completely virtual space. And then there's other versions. It's becoming a pretty loose term right now. People are calling like Decentraland, that's based in a browser, a metaverse, but you're just basically controlling an avatar in a 3D game in a browser. And then there's also like an augmented reality metaverse where we start to play our digital art over the top of our physical worlds. I'm interested in all three of these. I think there's benefits for all types of people, and it really will come down to your personal preference. There's a fantastic documentary out on HBO that features a couple of my virtual reality friends called We Met in Virtual Reality. And it's a beautiful film, and it talks about a lot of people during the pandemic when they couldn't connect to one another in person. they found connection in virtual reality through VR chat, and they had these wacky avatars, and it was like the environment kind of looked very silly in many ways, but the conversations that they were having were very real. A couple of people got married, a couple of people were talking through their depression and things like this. It was just a space to hold each other, to be able to create space for each other, to create like go for a walk through some creative world, but then also, have a good serious conversation if you want. Like, so, and for different personalities, like if you're more introverted, especially, like this could be a space that you find much more comfortable than, the awkwardness of catching up in real life, or, for some people, there's situations that are going to be better for them at that point in their lives. And for some of those people, they describe that, and then they help them also build up their self-confidence to be able to confront sort of some of their concerns in physical reality as well. So they will then getting a bit more out of their comfort zone and catching up with people in the physical world and stuff like that. So I'm very fascinated by all these different variations of the metaverse, but I'm very focused also on like how can I contribute to that positive interpretation, because I do want it to be a healthy space for everybody. So that's very much part of my focus.
I love that, and I actually identify a lot, also in my personal experience with the metaverse, especially from that psychological standpoint. Me too. I found myself actually doing a lot of personal growth in the time of the pandemic. So I really, really, really relate to that. And going back also to, the FakeWhale drop and the digital natives, the pieces of this drop, I know that they'll also be featured in your upcoming Valuart Solos in real life exhibition, also created by FakeWhale. Is there, I know there's going to be other pieces added to, those ones that are part of the FakeWhale Cross drop on Nifty. Can you tell us a little bit more about these pieces as well? And if there's a narrative, that connects all of them that the spectator can take into consideration as, he or she is enjoying the pieces?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm yet to finalize the full collection, but I will be there will be the 3 new pieces that I'm creating for the FakeWhale for the cross drop with Nifty. And then there will be a selection of probably about 9 other pieces. And I've been thinking about that a bit lately, and I'll try to find some pieces in my collection that are the sort of earlier iterations of this theme, of kind of like a digital native theme. I've got some interesting ones, I've done an animation, for example, that's called Digital Anatomy. And so it shows kind of the silhouette of a character, and then you see all of the inner workings that are happening, kind of like the way that blood or neurons pulse through our brains or blood flows through our body. What does the digital mechanics look like for an anatomy of an avatar or something like that? So there's kind of these types of speculative works, but they're also, for me, just fun, creative, colorful, animated sort of works that are very expressive of our personalities in a virtual space. So I'm looking at putting together a collection that the messages of the artwork reference this theme, but also visually. I'm hoping that the audience will see my own iterative process through seeing the collection. They'll see how I arrived at these latest works. So you'll see a bit of a journey from me as an artist, and I might include works that are from a year and a half ago or something like that, and we can sort of see this journey.
And speaking of journey, this is another question that I want to ask. This passion of yours for the metaverse that then perfectly melds with the Web3, and how did this journey start? I know that you had that iconic collab also with deadmau5 on Super Rare back in 2020. Did you already enter the space before that? And what was it when you got into the space? What was it that really sparked you diving into it, what was the potential you saw in it? Since you already had that background in, VR since a long, long time ago.
Yeah, so I had already been creating in the digital space for about 15 years. Over that time, I'd created all kinds of digital art and digital experiences. From my earlier projects were Flash web comics. When the iPhone came out, I was creating like art apps and interactive apps and story apps. I created like the world's first augmented reality comic book. And then also got into virtual reality and creating virtual reality films. And throughout this entire time, it was always very difficult to sell digital art. The augmented reality comic book sold really well, but it was paired with a physical book. So people were quite happy to pay for this physical book, and they were extra happy that it came with all this magical augmented reality animation and stuff. But the production cost of that book was pretty high. But because we had this legacy of people paying for printed media, physical media, it was much easier to sort of sell that book. So that one, made its money back. But a lot of these other projects, I would have to rely on funding and things like this and grants and stuff to get the projects made in the first place. And the marketplace for them, like Apple, if you put an app on the App Store, Apple will take like 30%, but they don't do anything for you. And often they will update their software, and then your app might not work 12 months later and you spend more money trying to update it and stuff. So I was never very happy with the current systems, and I didn't feel like I had much control over them. So then when like the whole sort of NFT scene came about, I had a lot of friends bugging me to get into it, and I was a bit slow because I had a lot of projects on. But then my friends at Emanate, which is a company that connects artists and musicians, proposed this collab with Deadmau5, and I was like, oh, this is a great one, to finally put it over the line and get me into it. So that came about. They gave me a few of his tracks to choose from. I found one that I really liked, that I resonated with, called Saturn. And I felt at the time like I was just researching a lot about sort of crypto and NFT scene, and I had this feeling that we were on the cusp of a big revolution for digital artists and digital provenance, these types of ideas. So I was also very aware that this was like the first kind of major collab between an artist and a musician to be dropped as an NFT at the time, because it was pretty early on. And so I thought, well, I'll be a bit bold with this piece, and I'll recognize that we are kind of like forging the way with this technology, with this collab. We did like an audio reactive drop, and it had a narrative that that was inspired by the time when NASA sent the golden record out into space in the 70s. It was called the Voyager record. So I was inspired by that story of us kind of reaching out beyond our borders to explore new frontiers. And I was kind of applying that narrative to us exploring these new technologies with blockchain and stuff. And we're kind of probing out with the blockchain to sort of explore and define like a new era for ourselves. So it was kind of a bit of a fun narrative, but the work was like a golden rendered kind of off-world kind of space colony featuring the sort of iconic Deadmau5 logo. And I ended up calling the piece In Titan's Light, which is Titan is the moon that orbits around Saturn. So it's kind of also a gesture towards this idea of orbiting around like a larger concept. So anyway, that's kind of diving in deep into it. But that particular drop was very successful. We got a lot of press. I ended up also doing like a physical collectible to go with the drop, which was like a laser etched golden record that was signed by myself and Deadmau5.
Cool.
So the collector got this really cool looking laser etched record, and I even sourced out the person who creates the replicas of the original Voyager record to create our record. So there's like a weird connection with that Voyager record as well, which is pretty neat. The actual person that's fabricating these replicas was doing ours as well. So the person that got that, we're really happy. And then that sort of started me off on this kind of journey. From there, I just kind of went diving in.
And I know that for most of your projects, you also choose Tezos. Also, I believe like Neons, and also most of your projects are actually on Tezos, correct? What is the reason behind this choice?
Well, back in early 2021, there was this huge debate about the environmental impact of proof of work blockchains. So I had been called out on my Twitter by like one of my followers, like that was very sort of like, I'm never going to follow you, you're destroying the environment, this kind of thing. And I thought, oh gosh, I really should do my research, because I didn't know much about it at that time. And basically, like, I held some online discussions. I invited like platform founders from Known Origin and Super Rare, and also from the Tezos community. I invited climate scientists and just different people. Like,
really did your research.
Yeah. I felt like I wanted a discussion, because there were so many questions coming in and a lot of information, and it was hard to know how much of it was kind of blown out of proportion. But anyway, after that conversation, it was apparent that like a proof of stake solution was the way to go, because proof of stake algorithm is like 1,000 times more energy efficient. And so then I just said, well, which platform should we go on? And one of our guests was the founder of Hic et Nunc, which was a popular platform on Tezos, which has now become Teia, T-E-I-A. And a bunch of artists started migrating onto that. And it was really fun. Like, over 6 months' time, we had about 20,000 artists migrate onto Hic et Nunc. And we created a real exciting community around this new sort of blockchain, with sort of like not only like an environmental sort of edge, like an environmentally conscious edge, but also we realized at the time that the gas fees on Ethereum were really high as well. So like on some platforms, artists were paying up to $140 in gas fees, which was pretty wild. And I was speaking to some artists in Brazil, and they're like, this is like some artists' monthly salary here. It's such a huge risk just to put your art up. You don't even know if you're going to sell it. Like, just to list the art was a huge financial risk for them. Whereas on Tezos, it was like 30 cents. So I like this idea that also we were reinforcing an inclusive platform, that it could include everyone around the world to participate in this movement, because it was feeling more and more like, the platforms with the expensive gas fees was more for the rich and not accessible to everyone. Now the tables have turned. Ethereum has recently completed the merge. Yeah, so it's on proof of stake. So, here I am now, happily promoting my first drop back on Ethereum. So that's good.
Congrats! And we're so excited for that. It's just, I don't know when this is going to be published, just in a couple of days, but it's going to be on the 28th, right?
Yes, that's what I hear.
Cool. On the 28th. So we'll definitely be waiting for that. And I'm just going to circle back a little bit also to, we were talking about AI art earlier, and I want to also to have your take on what the metaverse means for art, right?
Yeah, I think the metaverse will be one of, I think art in the metaverse will be one of those first primary expressions for anybody that enters the metaverse. Like I said before, like, one of the first things you think about is your own identity. What will my avatar look like? It's like deciding what you're going to wear on a daily basis. It's, that can be a creative expression. And then it extends from there. What's the environment going to look like, and what type of experience will I go to have, and a lot of that's going to be designed by some of our favorite artists, and everyone will be having a crack at it based on whichever platform provides the tools to make that happen. So, for me personally, I've been involved in this space for quite some time. Like, I worked on a lot of virtual concerts in the past for a company called Wave. We did, for example, like the Weekend virtual concert, and more recently they did Justin Bieber. I worked on John Legend and Jean-Michel Jarre and Dylan Francis, Alice in Wonderland, all of these awesome musicians. And for each of those musicians, we created an immersive world where you, as an avatar, can move around and stuff like that. For some of the early ones, it was in VR, so you could actually catch up with your friends, see them as your little avatar, waving your arms around and stuff, and you could talk to each other and say, hey, let's go and explore this part of the club, which was like a crazy 3D world, and experience some music and also interact with art in time with the music and stuff like that. And those types of connections that I was having with people in those spaces felt very authentic. Like, we were laughing and having a really fun time. And I thought, this is exactly like what I want. Like, one of my favorite ones was I created I worked with the team on creating the virtual reality concert for the Ready Player One film.
Yeah. I read the book. I still have to see it.
Yeah, it was like the perfect, it's the perfect story to explore these metaverse ideas. So we created when the film came out, we created the official virtual reality version of it. And I remember at one point in that concert, like, I gave someone like some virtual drugs. I'll say, hey, do you want to take a trip? And their little avatar was like, huh? And then I was like,
what does it look like when an avatar takes a trip?
Yeah, so I was holding out this little plasma-looking sphere, and it was
cool.
in my little avatar hand, which looked like a little paddle. And then their little avatar hand kind of reached out and touched the sphere, and suddenly the whole concert world disappeared, and we were together in this different, really psychedelic space. And as we moved our hands around, the sphere was stretching and getting stuck to our little avatar hands, and the guy, he was like, what the heck is going on? His reaction was very funny.
That's awesome.
He was very surprised. And then after 30 seconds, you're back in the concert. And it's just like brief departure, and then you're back. And he's like, whoa, that was wild. And then I kind of just walk away like a weird drug dealer in this virtual space. But it was a lot of fun. It caught them by surprise, but it was like a very, authentic sort of connection that we created in this strange space. And I thought this was like the first time for me that I really felt like I had an authentic moment that transcended just kind of the virtual representation. I was like, I'm having like a genuine moment here with another human being. So I was very excited, and always keep that in my mind for, I want to recreate moments like that in the metaverse. And I feel like the metaverse will be all about like those social connections and how we can leverage that. And it doesn't always have to be about, playing games with each other. What will be the equivalent of catching up for a coffee, but in the metaverse, or just hanging out, going for a walk and having a conversation. What will be our go-to recreational sort of social connection kind of activities that we do? I'm very interested in that part of the culture.
And this, I bet, is going to, is the foundation also of the Sutuverse, all these values.
Yeah, 100%. And the Sutuverse, like at the moment, the first release of the Sutuverse is a game, and it's a speedrun game, and there is a leaderboard. You basically run through a 3D maze of obstacles and you try to get the fastest time. But then, not everyone's interested in trying to be the fastest. So I've also included some other little funny kind of activities. Like, I've got an eggplant scavenger hunt where you have to go through the course, take as long as you like, and try and find all the eggplants. And I'm going to change that up weekly, so I'll hide them in new places and stuff like that. And, that creates on the Discord like a funny conversation where you're looking for clues and everyone's like, did you find one? This kind of thing. And it's a bit more of an activity that transcends just like the speed running. But then, the next, I'm releasing different types of experiences on the Sutuverse. So I see the Sutuverse as an experiment for me to figure out how NFTs can unlock all kinds of experiences. So already, if you go onto neons.xyz, you will see there's 2 augmented reality experiences, and you can sync your wallet to my augmented reality app. You can activate.
I was checking that out actually earlier.
Oh,
I just had to connect. Yeah, I just had to connect the wallet, and I'll try that after this interview. But
okay. So with that one, you can activate the neons on your face as a face filter. Or if you're not interested in that, you can put the neons down the street floating like a neon sign. So there's 2.
But you have to purchase it first, though.
Yeah, you have to purchase for both of those experiences. But then when the game comes out, you will be able to play the game without a neons. You will have to purchase like a coin. That the coin, once you purchase the coin, it unlocks the game and you can play it unlimited times. And you can play it without a neons. But if you do have a neons, you will get like a passive speed boost. So you'll go a little bit faster than people without neons. Because I got to look after my neons people, like they've invested in my project. So
understandably,
some advantages. Yeah.
Cool. And we can't wait for that as well. So I was just like discovering the app earlier. And by the way, like, in regards to the iJack app, is there any other, releases coming out that we should have an eye out for?
Yeah, we're working on a really big project at the moment for iJack, which will be like a full-on NFT experience. We'll have some more news about that soon. I would just say, like, just keep an eye on my Twitter and everything. But like, we're cooking up something pretty big. We just got some investment money for it and that. So it's going to be our focus for the next 6 months.
Cool. And any other curiosities that you want to share with us as we're wrapping up this interview?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think I'm also trying to, like, as I create all this content online, I am thinking about how to bring it back into the physical world. So to coincide with our game launching, for example, we've got even beyond that, to coincide with this Nifty drop, for example, I've got the artwork showing at with Plug Me with Valuart and the Solos exhibition. I'm very interested in like how we fill up physical spaces with digital art and make it prominent to reach audiences that are used to going to galleries and seeing sort of traditional art. I really love that we're really spearheading that movement to put digital art into these types of spaces to I think it helps validate the movement as well within the sort of traditional art world. So yeah, I just wanted to bring awareness to that again. That's really important. Thank you, you guys, for inviting me to be a part of this exhibition and this drop. And yeah, I just look forward to that.
And we thank you for being part of it. And we're going to be so excited for, everything that's ahead. Thank you for being part of this interview. And thank you, everybody, for being here with us. Remember to subscribe, and we'll see you with the next episode.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.